So one afternoon, the lawyer was driving home. We saw a man eating grass by the side of the road. The lawyer said, why are you doing that? And the man said, I don't have any money for food. So the lawyer said, then why don't you come with me? But sir, I have a wife and I have 5 children. The man said, they are all welcome. So the family gets in the lawyer's car and he speeds off towards his mansion. You are so kind to so many people, the wife gushes during the journey. The lawyer says, really, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I haven't cut my grass in weeks. Dar just got that. Hey, listen, sometimes kindness isn't all it's cracked up to be, I guess, with some folks. So pray with me. Holy One, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable to you, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Amen. Slurs, hateful language, tweets, misspelled words that come at all hours of the night. They fill our lives. Bullies on the playground push other children down. Bullies in the workplaces. Drivers cut you off, maybe this morning on your way to service, and then they make obscene gestures even when you know you are right. So what can you do about that? What have you done about that? Don't answer. So I think, as I put this together, it's 2 words. It's be kind. Or as Mary Latham says, who's from Connecticut, and is a friend of mine. I don't know her personally. You can do more good. So that's what I wanted to talk with you about this morning. So I'll tell you a quick story that was shared with me. There was a man in line at a very popular coffee shop who was in this long line. It took about 15 minutes for him to get to the front, and he was eyeing the glass case with all the pastries, and he was looking at that lemon pound cake, and there were 4 or 5, and as he got, Fuzzy's going like this, as he got to the front, as he was getting closer to the front, the pile of slices of pound cake was getting smaller and smaller, and as he got to the front and it was his turn, there was one left, he was thankful for that, he ordered that with his coffee, and as the barista took the cake out, he heard behind him, the very next person behind him, the gentleman yelled out, hey, that's my slice of cake. And the gentleman turned and said, what are you talking about? He says, I've been waiting in line for 20 minutes, that's mine. So, first gentleman turned around. Now, what do you think he said? There's many things he could have said, right? Because he was waiting just as long. But what he said was this, would you like half? So the second gentleman behind him had no idea how to respond to that. So a small act of kindness. So the second gentleman said, yes, I would. Matter of fact, let's pick out another piece that we can share as well. This is a true story. So they both went off to a table. They knew nothing about each other, and they both shared 2 pastries, 2 slices of cake, and got to know each other, both very different politically. One was gay, one was straight, one was old, one was young, and they sat there for a half an hour and shared this cake, all based on one small act of kindness, one chosen small act of kindness. Random, yes or no, but it's not about randomness, it's about a chosen act of kindness that took place at this coffee shop. So, Billy Graham, not Franklin Graham, Billy Graham had been preaching for well over 40 years. And he said this, if you want to make a difference, you have to be different. And then Gandhi, who I absolutely love and admire, said, to be changed, you have to be the change in the world that you want to be and you want to see. You have to make that effort. You have to do those things that will bring the change that you want to see. So it all comes back to being kind, to doing more good. So let me get back to Micah. It's a very short reading. I wanted to balance that out for you today. So who was Micah? We don't hear a lot about Micah. We always hear that reading though, right? Everyone knows that. Do justice, love kindness. So Micah's name, translated in Hebrew, means who is like Yahweh. So who is like God? Micah was an 8th century BC minor prophet. There's 12 minor prophets. We're not going to get into that today. It's a minor prophet. It's a relatively short book. But Micah basically, in that short book, challenges unjust leaders, defends the rights of the poor against the rich and powerful, while looking forward to a world centered on peace, led by a new David monarch, whom we obviously come to know as Jesus. That's what Micah writes about. So here we are 2,800 years later, and we are still challenging unjust leaders, defending the rights of the poor against the rich and powerful, while looking forward to a world centered on peace. So that's what Micah was all about. But Micah wrote, as we heard Letitia read, to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. So Micah builds on justice by saying that true goodness is also the result of loving kindness. The Hebrew word hesed is sometimes translated as kindness or mercy. And that's why you hear that different sometimes depending on the translation. But it's primarily a word connected to covenant faithfulness to God, but also to others. And that's where the kindness comes in. The word is often used to convey God's steadfast, faithful love for God's people. So being good means that we maintain faithfulness to God in all things and demonstrate the faithfulness by our steadfast love for God and for all of God's people. So by choosing to be kind, that's what we're doing. So nowhere does Micah write that God is asking us to make anything great again. It's about goodness. He's not asking us to make ourselves great. He's not even asking us to make our country great again. Because kindness is about true goodness. And yet, over the last number of years, kindness has been seen as sort of suspicious based on our society the last few years. I think our culture, society, it's weakened a bit. A certain selfishness has come to be expected, I think. So to be kind now is also to be weak for some. At least about 38 to 44% of the population. So kindness is seen as a nostalgic throwback to simpler times, or worse by some, as a con. That's not real anymore. A man who throws his coat over a puddle is a man that some onlookers suspect may be protecting something valuable in the mud. That's what some people think. That's why we've lost some kindness. To go out of one's way to be kind suggests an ulterior motive to some. I mean, who has time to look up from their phone, let alone expose themselves to the discomfort of empathizing with strangers? We've been hearing that for the last 4 weeks with Reverend Lily's sermons. So have you seen this? It's not just me, right? Have you seen some of this? There seems to be a higher level of rudeness growing around. Right? Growing around, not going around, but growing around. People treat one another with a contempt, I think, that they do not trouble to conceal anymore. It's just out there. Have you seen it? People look suspiciously at one another, not sure what to expect, wondering which side the other person is on. But as this new reality gets embedded in, I think something is changing. I've seen that too. Today, I think there's a new hero in town, and there's many of them. They're going around and they're doing good. You saw it with Mary Latham. So I'm going to call them kindness heroes. That's my phrase. I'm going to use it. Kindness heroes. So when you look at Mary Latham, you saw her picture. She's driving cross country in her blue Subaru Outback, choosing to do small acts of kindness. But kindness is not just a small act. It's a chance to change cultural attitudes. When kindness is shared, it grows around. Did you ever do something good for someone and you felt good yourself? That's called moral elevation. From your toes up to the top of your head, you feel good because you've done something good. So, with the constant depressing news cycles, which are mostly political, that we've had for a couple of years now, well, for many years, we all need something to escape into a more healthy and hopeful narrative in our daily lives to get through each day. So my challenge for us today is for you to become a kindness hero. I'm not sure if you're all up to the challenge. Are you up to the challenge? Okay. Some of you are already well on your way. Okay, I know that. We know that. Some of you are already there. So all you need to do is to inspire one another to fight for change on a personal level and to remind one another that the individual choices we make can have a wider impact throughout your personal circle of influence, throughout your neighborhoods, which then will lead to the country and hopefully throughout the world. That's what one small act of kindness can do. To be a hero today is simply to be the person who leans into the vulnerability that comes with seeing other people's problems. I'll say that one more time. To be a hero today is simply to be the person who leans into the vulnerability that comes with seeing other people's problems. You have to see other people's problems. Even if that problem is just a slice of lemon pound cake, or someone that wants a bag of M&Ms who's a bank teller. Very small acts, but they matter. So I want to have Jesse show you a clip of a young lady, very young lady, who performs an act of kindness.
Can I just skip him?
Skip you. Go ahead. You got it.
Like the mileage. I had no idea exactly.
Go. You got it. You got it.
More than 8 hours a week.
This is my girl right here. I love her to bits. She is the best. This is my girl. He's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? I just got steak and potatoes.
I want you to watch her face and her eyes when she comes back. It's out the window.
Good job, Ella. Ella, you're amazing. I think you just made his day. I think you just made his week. How does that make you feel?
I like it.
Did you see her face? See her eyes? My friends, that was the face of God. She's this big, I don't know, 8 years old maybe? And she chose to bring her plate of food to this homeless man. And to me, that looked like Main Street, downtown Sarasota. I'm sure it wasn't, but that's what it looked like to me. And I've seen that man, him personally, in downtown Sarasota. And I will confess to you, I've walked by him before and have done nothing. Maybe some of you have done that as well. I don't do that much anymore because I have made a conscious decision, as far as acts of kindness, to stop and to give homeless folks that have their signs, to give them something. And the reason I do that is because, and I've said this to Brian before many times, I've made a decision within my heart to say that could be Jesus. That's what I convinced myself of. That's what I say. So now, over all these years, we've come to a traffic light, and Brian will attest to this. If the person's on his side, he'll just roll down the window and go like this because he knows I'm going to give him a couple of them. Because that's what we do. Because I don't know if that's Jesus or not. I'm going to assume that it is. This young girl has no idea or concept of what those feelings are, already knew in her heart at 8 years old that she was doing the right thing. That is so amazing to me that she did that act of kindness to help this man who was homeless, he had nothing to eat. And you all have examples, I know you do. I'll give you one more. Small acts of kindness that can lead to things that we know nothing about. I run a bunch of storage facilities, you all know that. There's one that Mike works at. Mike's one of the managers there. I'm not going to embarrass you, Mike, too much. But I buy cases of water for the properties for the managers to drink, and they're for the managers. They're in the back room in the refrigerators. They're not for the public. They're for the managers. And I was there last week, and a customer came in after moving and packing in the August heat of Florida, and she came in to pay a bill and just to get out of the heat, get into the air conditioner, and Mike said, "Would you care for a bottle of water?" We don't do that at Public Storage. We don't ask them for if they want something to drink. That was a small chosen act of kindness that took place, and the woman did this and said, "Well, can I have 2?" Now, most people would say, "Well, wow, that's kind of, I only asked you if you wanted." And he said, "Of course you can." Small chosen acts of kindness lead to bigger things, because that will then lead to something else, will lead to something else, and will lead to something else. So that's how you become a kindness hero, is to do these small acts of kindness. Being a hero today requires no expert skills. That's the good part. There's no powers of flying or invisibility. Sorry, Dave, you can't. There's no shield or hammer. There's no ability to shoot a web. I do have that, though. Being a hero today means one thing. You ready? It means choose to not look away. That's what it means. Choose to not look away. To that gentleman that Ella saw through the window at the restaurant. And listen, I'm not just talking about happiness here. That's very different. Being happy is great. Don't get me wrong. Who doesn't want to be happy? Happiness and kindness are definitely linked. They're absolutely linked. It's that moral elevation, right? It gives you the warm fuzzies, not the warm fuzzy. It gives you the warm fuzzies, right? Susan puts her arm around, he's mine. But happiness is a passive act. Kindness is active. You're doing something for someone else. But like happiness, kindness is difficult to quantify. We have no way of knowing whether people are becoming kinder. We really don't. There's no app for that. So let me share something with you. In our country, last April, in the wake of teachers reporting higher anxiety in the classroom, a survey aimed to discover what children thought about kindness in the era of our national leadership, in the era of Donald Trump. It's not a political statement. I'm telling you about a survey that was conducted in the leadership in our country. Only 14% of these children strongly agreed that our nation's leaders model how to treat people with kindness. That was the question. Only 14%. But researchers also noted an upward trend in social and emotional skills with these same children. The children were understanding and learning on their own how to overcome what this country was showing them, what our leadership was showing them. That's huge. Almost 2/3 said that they had been bullied at some point. 2/3. 8 in 10 said they'd gone out of their way to do something kind for another child. 80%. And nearly half said they had done so many times, which is amazing, really, in the same way that Ella's plate of steak and eggs were amazing. Amazing because so many times have turned so dark, haven't they? And uncertain, and yet they're still finding new opportunities, these kids are, for kindness. They're doing it on their own. The concern, though, however, is that children who make kindness look so easy, they soon grow up, don't they? And kindness tends to fade. So as adults, we need to actively get it back. So there are 3 ways we can become kindness hero disciples that I believe Jesus is calling us to be. The first way to be a kindness hero is to be alive with faith. We may not see it all the time, but there is a lot of faith out there. There really is. We all know people who have lost their faith in God, right? We can all name them if we had to. Or have times when their faith wavers a bit, but until they recover, they have faith in themselves, which sometimes is enough. Or they have faith in angels, or they have abundant faith in humanity, or a strong belief in someone or something other than God, but they have some sort of faith. I mean, even someone who claims to be an atheist, when they're speeding down a hill, they have deep faith that pressing that pedal will make the car stop. They have faith in something. My point is, anyone at any time can be kind as long as there's some sort of faith present. That's important. But having faith in God will certainly help much more than having no faith in God. This faith can help us do amazing things. Faith in God can help us do amazing things. I mean, look around. You know this. You've seen it. You've experienced. You've lived it here in Church of the Trinity. It was faith that demanded that the Samaritan that we heard about last week when Reverend Lilly preached abandoned his own plans and turned his full attention to the injured man alongside the road. So in faith, God's healing power flows. The wind parted waters once the Hebrews believed, but not until the Hebrews believed. So faith is very important in this process. Anyone can be kind. Anyone can be kind. But kindness heroes who are alive with faith in God, they're wired differently, hooked up to some invisible energy grid. Jim has it. Just get a hug from him. You'll feel that power, right?
Amen.
It's an invisible energy grid. That's why their lives give off such voltage, as if someone had pumped an extra megawatt or two into them. They're spiritually on fire, as they've let God touch as they have let God's touch work in them so that the inner and the outer are one. And number two, a kindness hero is alive with love. We are called not to do discipleship. We are called not to do ministry and not to do Christianity. That's not it. We are called to be the neighbor to the other. Remember, the last 4 weeks, uncommon courage, radical welcome, extravagant generosity, and lavish hospitality. Kindness heroes. And in that being a kindness hero, we become Christ present in the world today. We really do. Love shows us that there is so much more required than just doing what has come to be expected. Love for the neighbor, to the other, should always motivate us and move us to the side of the other, the neighbor, the stranger. And then number three, a kindness hero is alive with compassion. In the midst of all that is wrong in our world today, in our country, in our own backyards, Jesus says, come and be a kindness hero. Be people who dare downward mobility rather than upward mobility. People who find themselves by losing themselves in others. People with the capacity to suffer for others. People who give heart to heart rather than an eye for an eye responses to injuries and insults caused by others. Heart to heart. Live it up people who aren't afraid of the abundant life, but where abundance is not a treasure trove for us to squander on ourselves, but a trust fund for us to invest in others as kindness heroes. See, kindness is simply a concern for others. That's all it is. It shows those around us that other people matter as much as we matter to ourselves. It indicates that we are not alone on this big blue ball, and that what affects one of us impacts all of us. Spreading some love by buying a stranger a cup of coffee, or a bag of M&Ms, or giving someone a bottle of water, helping someone across the road, are ways of putting some sunshine into somebody's day. So trust me, it'll make you feel good as well. It really will. You've felt it. You've been there. So kindness is both energetic, it's interactive, it's a verb, it's an adjective. We can send kind thoughts to anyone at any time, at any moment. I know my mom's watching today, so I'm going to send you kind thoughts. Mom, I love you. Kindness could be as simple as opening a door for someone, or as labor-intensive as painting a room for, a stranger. The source of all this kindness and goodness, I believe, is God. I do. So writing to the Corinthians, the Apostle Paul says that God is able to provide you with every blessing in abundance so that by always having enough of everything, you may share abundantly in every good work. In other words, God's generosity rubs off on you, making you more generous and kind. And then Paul says, you will be enriched in every way for your generosity, for your great generosity. So my friends, I'll close by saying, may God bless the kindness heroes of the Church of the Trinity.